So people are going absolutely crazy about this particular interview right here with Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn's dad, on IFL TV. They're literally losing their minds over it. I only just watched it, so I'm going to give you my take on it. Now, here's what they're telling you about this particular interview. They're telling you that Barry Hearn says that he don't think Joshua should fight Wilder for another 2 years. And that he's advised Joshua not to fight Wilder for another 2 years. They're also telling you that Barry Hearn, says that Shelly Finkel wanted the fight between Joshua and Wilder. And they're right. That is exactly what Barry Hearn says in this particular interview. So they were right to tell you those things. But here's what they're not telling you. Because you know some people love to cherry pick certain lines or sound bites out of interviews and not put them in the proper context. And we can't allow that, people. We're trying to be objective here. We're trying to be fair and balanced. So let's put the cherry-picked comments in context. First of all, this is not the first time that Barry Hearn has said that he doesn't think Joshua and Wilder should fight for another 2 years. He said this at least a year or two ago in the press. It's nothing new. I don't know why people are jumping up and down acting like this is some type of revelation. Barry Hearn has expressed this as his view a long time ago. See, what you have to understand about Barry Hearn is that before he was involved in boxing or promoting any kind of sport, he was an accountant. And he still is an accountant. In fact, Frank Warren often uses the fact that Barry Hearn is a chartered accountant as an insult. He says, oh, he's not a real boxing man, he's an accountant. And maybe it's true. Barry Hearn thinks about the money first and foremost before he thinks about the boxing. So in his mind, he's looking at the AJ Wilder situation and thinking the American market can be grown a lot more for this fight. Right now, AJ and Wilder are not household names. And, you know, Barry Hearn says in the interview he doesn't think anybody can beat AJ or Wilder. So he thinks it's safe for them to both continue building the fight for another 2 years. And then maximize the profit on the fight in back end of 2019, early or mid 2020. That's what he thinks because that's the way he thinks. He's an accountant. Indeed, he does say that, and he did advise Joshua not to take the fight. And people are jumping up and down saying, see, there you go. This proves that Team Joshua don't want it because Barry Hearn has told Joshua not to take it, so that's why he's not allowed to take it. But what they didn't tell you is that Barry Hearn in this very same interview tells you that he does not have the final say. In fact, not only does he not have the final say in the running of Matchroom Boxing, but he has nothing to do with the day-to-day running of the business. This is what he says in this interview. He says Eddie, his son, has 100% control. He says Eddie will ask for his advice here and there, and he'll give his input, but ultimately the final say comes down to Eddie. Now, whether you choose to believe that or not is up to you, but it is interesting, isn't it, that you choose to believe some things Barry Hearn says in this interview, but totally dismiss other things that he says. It's interesting. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, Barry Hearn says he has nothing to do with the running of the business. It's all to do with Eddie, and he gives his input here and there because him and Eddie talk. They're father and son. But ultimately, Eddie's the one who calls the shots. And Barry also talks about the fact that for the first 6 months, when he handed over the reins of Matchroom Boxing to Eddie, he found it very difficult because he was constantly having to bite his tongue because Eddie was doing things which Barry wouldn't have done. You know, Barry would have advised against, but Eddie was going the other way and doing those things anyway, against what Barry would have wanted. But he said he came to the realization that Eddie's actually a better promoter than he was. So he's learned to trust Eddie's judgment. So again, he can have his input, but it doesn't mean Eddie is going to go along with what his dad says every time, or even most of the time. That's what Barry Hearn says in this interview too. Again, a lot of people are missing that bit out. And with regards to what he says about Shelly Finkel, Barry Hearn actually contradicts himself with regards to Shelly Finkel, or at least he appears to. There certainly needs to be some clarification on what his position is on Shelly Finkel, because in one part of the interview, he says he thinks Shelly Finkel wanted the fight and he wanted to cash Deontay Wilder out. Well, first of all, he says he thinks Finkel really wanted the fight. And then he says, well, Finkel knows better than that. You know, Finkel should be trying to build the fight. And then later on, he says, well, unless he's just trying to cash Wilder out because he doesn't think Wilder can win it. Maybe that's what it is. But later on in the interview, literally just a short while later, Barry Hearn says, well, maybe they didn't really want the fight. Yeah, so in one breath, he's saying Finkel wanted the fight. And then in the next breath, he's saying, well, maybe they didn't really want it because he was asked about the contract situation, the negotiations. He says, well, maybe they really didn't want it. So perhaps Barry Hearn is in two minds over or maybe he's thinking Shelly might have wanted the fight, but did Al Heyman want the fight? Al Heyman has got power in this equation. Let's not forget that. Al Heyman seems to have a lot of power with all his fighters. Certainly the American ones anyway. So maybe there is a little conflict of interest. Maybe that's what Barry Hearn thinks anyway. Maybe that's one way to explain his apparent contradiction. Because 1 minute he's saying he thinks Finkel wanted to fight, and the next minute he's saying they didn't really want to fight because the contract's there for them to sign. And the contract is still there for them to sign. They can sign the contract has been signed by Matchroom, who represent Anthony Joshua. If Wilder wants the fight, he can sign for it. If he don't want it, don't sign for it. But don't say that the opportunity is not there to fight Joshua, because the opportunity is there to fight Joshua. And that's the bottom line at the end of the day. People talking about Joshua's never going to take the fight. He's a coward. He'll run from Wilder his whole career. People, the contract is there. If you want to say it's not a fair contract, that's cool. Fair enough. Say it's not a fair contract. I mean, I disagree. If Wilder beats Fury, Eddie Hearn has already said that Wilder will be in a good position to renegotiate. And he definitely will be. He'll definitely be in a better position to say, I want a hell of a lot more than 15 mil. I want a percentage. Yeah. They can definitely have that conversation then. But as of right now, the offer is still on the table. Deontay Wilder can take it. You know, he doesn't have to fight Fury. He could just say, you know what, let's sign the Joshua fight. Let's do it now. But hey, if he wants to go fight Fury, great. Hopefully Fury will be in shape. And that'll be a good fight. And we can find out who one half of the best heavyweight in the world is. Because the winner of that fight is still going to have to see Joshua to find out who the undisputed is. One way or the other. So, yeah. I've watched the interview, as I say. Go watch it for yourselves if you haven't seen it. And tell me what you think of it. To me, it's nothing new. Because Barry Hearn has said this kind of stuff. Barry Hearn has said all kinds of stuff. Barry Hearn has said, I remember years ago, he was saying that nobody can last 3 rounds with Anthony Joshua. Nobody in the world. He was saying this, I think, before the Dillian Whyte fight. So the fight before he fought Dillian Whyte, I can't remember who he fought. Was it Gary Cornish? Might have been Gary Cornish. And he said, yeah, nobody in the world can last 3 rounds with Joshua. It is what it is. He has his opinions and he's going to have his say. And you do have to wonder whether Barry Hearn is as aware of the PR war that's going on between Joshua and Wilder right now as the rest of us are, or as his son is. You would imagine that he is. But again, Barry Hearn is an old man. And you'd be surprised how disconnected some old people or older people are from what's going on, even what's going on right underneath their own noses. I mean, I've been watching interviews with a lot of these older fighters from the 90s and what have you, like Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, even Mike Tyson. And it's remarkable seeing how, let me not say how little they know about boxing, but it's remarkable to see how disconnected they are from the day-to-day goings on in boxing. You know, they're all family men and they've got a lot of other things to occupy their lives other than being boxing nerds like we are. So they're not up to date on who said the latest about this and who said the latest. They're not up to date on a lot of these things. Lennox Lewis, for example, was he up to date on the fact that Anthony Joshua has an exclusive deal with Sky Sports in the UK, but as part of the Deontay Wilder deal that Wilder's team were offering him, he may have had to fight on BT Sport? Is Lennox Lewis aware of that? You understand what I'm telling you? So the older generation, like Barry Hearn, he's fishing. You know, he's doing the darts and the snooker and all that other promotion. Is he really on social media, seeing what people like me are saying and what the Wilder fans are saying and what the Joshua fans are saying? Is he? If you guys say that he is, cool, that's your opinion. But me, myself, I'm just wondering if he's really on social media like that, if he's really paying as much attention to the public sentiment as the rest of us are. So, yeah, I'll let you guys debate that among yourselves. But if you haven't seen this interview, I recommend that you do go watch it. If you want to see what all the fuss is about and all the controversy, again, it is what it is. Barry Hearn has said this before. He thinks Joshua should let the fight build. And he said Joshua came to him and asked his opinion. He didn't say that he didn't say that he went and told Joshua. He said, Joshua came to me and asked my honest opinion. And I told him, look, I don't think you should take the fight for 2 years. Let it build. It could be a lot bigger than it is right now. I don't think there's anybody to beat Joshua or Wilder. So, you know, it's a risk, but I don't think it's that much of a risk. That's basically what he says. And, you know, he says, yeah, Shelly Finkel wanted to fight. He seems to insinuate that Shelly Finkel doesn't really believe Wilder can win the fight, so he's trying to cash him out. But then he says maybe he doesn't say Shelly, he says maybe the Wilder team, didn't really want it after all because of all the nonsense that went on with the contracts. And perhaps he's insinuating it's to do with Al Heyman. So, I don't know. You watch the interview for yourselves and tell me what you think of it. There's also, just to close, one comment that some people have picked up on where he said, he also told Joshua, if you go, he said something like, if you go 10 years unbeaten without fighting Deontay Wilder, I'll take that. And some people have said, you know, again, that's him saying Joshua should never fight Wilder. Well, I don't really know what he's saying by that. Is he saying that if Wilder loses and, you know, because let's say he tries to wait 2 years and do the plan that Barry advised him to do. Let's say Wilder loses within that time frame and just falls by the wayside. Then Joshua never fights Wilder. The Wilder fight is out the window. Is that what he means? Kind of like Lennox Lewis when he was supposed to fight Riddick Bowe. That would have been a huge fight. It fell by the wayside. Even Lennox Lewis when he was supposed to fight Tommy Morrison initially. Okay, before Tommy Morrison lost to Michael Bent. They fought eventually years down the line. But when they were initially supposed to fight, it fell by the wayside because Tommy Morrison got knocked out. Then Lennox Lewis got knocked out not too, long after that. So is that what Barry Hearn was talking about? Like taking the risk of waiting 2 years before the Wilder fight. And then if Wilder loses, the Wilder fight might never happen. Maybe that's what he was talking about. Maybe it's a situation where he's thinking the negotiations might never go well between Team Joshua and Team Wilder. So, you know, if that fight is too difficult to make for whatever reason, but you remain unbeaten, Anthony Joshua, for 10 years, I'll take that. So maybe he means that. But people are taking it as if Barry Hearn is admitting, yes, we're cowards. We don't want to fight. We don't. Why would, think about it now from a logical point of view. Why would Barry Hearn come out and tell you, yes, we're cowards. We never wanted to fight from the beginning. We don't. Why would he sabotage his own son's reputation? Why would he sabotage his fighter's reputation by coming out and saying all that? Think about it now. To me, Barry Hearn in this interview appears to be honest with what he's saying. He appears to me to be very candid in the sense that he appears that he's saying, I don't have nothing to do with the business. He seems candid about that with the boxing side of it. Eddie has the final say. I give my opinion. We talk about boxing, but it's down to him how it's run. And he appears to be candid about being in two minds about what's going on with Team Wilder. Shelley wants it, but do their team really want it? Because the contract was there. They didn't come back to us with any comments. Maybe there's conflict in their team, a tug of war between Shelley and Al. Who knows? Yeah. Let me know what you guys think about this controversial interview in the comment section below. Is Barry Hearn admitting that Team Joshua are cowards who don't want to fight and who actually want to build it and cash Joshua out in 2 years, milk the cow for a couple more years before cashing him out? Or is it a situation where Team Wilder are desperate to cash their guy out now because they're worried that he's going to get beaten by somebody before then? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, as I say, if you haven't seen the interview, have a watch of it yourselves and tell me what you think. All right? It's Hatman, I'm out.